Hey, folks. So, um, still getting over being sick, but getting closer. Today, though, still struggled to get up and get going. So, yesterday I felt great. I'm impressed at how well I felt yesterday. And though I felt better today, I did not feel like I felt yesterday. So we'll see. Hopefully tomorrow I can be back in the swing of things here. So, um, now yesterday we read Genesis chapter 31, and before we start 32, I just want to comment real quick on 31 because what we saw there was Jacob had been working for Laban, and Laban had been kind of underhanded in his dealings with Jacob and was exploiting him to some extent, to a great extent, really. And Jacob, um, though he had found things that were um, satisfying to him, his wives, his children, um, he inevitably end up enslaved by that situation. And I want to talk about that as a repeating pattern in the Bible. We see that a lot of times the thing that nourishes you at first is the thing that enslaves you in the end. And so we see that right off the bat with the fall. And then we see that here with Jacob and Laban. And then we're going to see that again with Egypt and the Israelites. And there's so much of this story with Laban that is recapitulated in the Exodus from Egypt. Um, and so that's really interesting to me there. But this story of what it is that you find to be valuable um, can, in the end, become a snare. That's a pattern that we're going to see over and over again. And we're going to see a constant emphasis on renewal. If there's anything that the Bible teaches, if there is a single word that I could use to describe the Bible, I think salvation might be it. But um, other than that, I would say renewal. Renewal is the theme that you have to constantly be ready to leave behind what you've known and to strike out as someone new, doing something new. And that's what life requires of us. We can't stay the same. We always have to be ready to give up what we've been to be what we need to be now. And what we are to be, we are now becoming. That's kind of the emphasis of the Bible. You can't stay any one way for too long. But that's just my, kind of take. And maybe that'll change as time goes on. I'm sure there's other things that I'll see. Now, it's very cold. It's winter. So I'm going to try to kind of read through this quickly and get on my way. So, Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim, or Naim. I'm not sure. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau. In the land of Seir, the country of Edom, he instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord, that I may find favor in your eyes." When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and he now is coming. Oh, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." In great fear and distress, Jacob divided his people who were with him into two groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Then Jacob prayed, "O God, my father of Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, 'Go back to your country and to your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, 'I will surely make you prosper,' and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him he selected a gift for his brother Esau: 200 female goats, and 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me, and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you, and asks, 'Who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you?' then you are to say, 'They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us.'" He also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds, "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, 'Your servant Jacob is coming behind us.'" For he thought, "I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me." So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he asked. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans, and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the left hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. So that's an interesting passage, because we get some of the history. We get some of the story about the things and that are occurring here with his brother, his relationship to his brother, his asking of God to save him, and his moving, and how he organizes his camps. And then we get a very distinctly different passage at the end here regarding his wrestling with the man. And this is kind of interesting. That night he got up and he took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. So at daybreak, the man decides that it's time to stop wrestling. There's certainly something important about that. This isn't something I've thought about before. And the same with his sending all of his possessions over ahead of him. So, one of the things that I've noticed about the Bible is that as we encounter crossings, there tends to be a reversal of fortune, or a change in fortune for those who do the crossing, or are associated with the event of the crossing. And so we see that with the crossing of the Red Sea, which is kind of the completion of the Exodus from Egypt, and begins, and kind of continues the wanderings of the Israelites, but it's a new epoch. They aren't yet what they're going to be, but they're no longer what they had been. There's something new that's happening in the middle. And they go from, slavery to the promised land, right? And so there's a definite changing of fortune there. And again, when they are done in this kind of middle ground, they cross the Jordan, and that's when they're actually in the promised land, right? And we see another crossing here, but Jacob doesn't cross yet. He stays and he wrestles. And he crosses. Does it say he crosses? So it doesn't tell us that he crosses. And I'll have to look at the Bible, or the... So he doesn't cross. Well, he crosses the Jordan. Yeah, he does. Okay. Okay, so it's not explicit here when this happens, in this chapter at least. I don't know if it comes along later, but regardless. He sends all of his things across first, but he doesn't cross yet. There's something that has to be worked out to finalize the previous epoch where he had been. And so whatever that is worked out in this wrestling match with this man. Now, I have to go back to work, but I'm going to think about this more, and I'll comment on it tomorrow. Because there's certainly something very symbolic and important here, beyond what we've already talked about. And that crossing motif, which I've already mentioned, just like to add, it culminates with Jesus on the cross. And that is it's the ultimate crossing. And it's the end of the Old Covenant, where the inevitable future and fortune of the Israelites was to fail in righteousness by the law. But through the sacrifice of Jesus, there's a reversal of fortune. The old covenant is no more, and the new covenant comes into being, and everybody has the opportunity for salvation from then on. So, just to comment on that motif. I'll talk about this more tomorrow, and I'll think about it a little bit throughout the day, but like I said, I gotta go back to work. All right, love you guys. Have a good day.